Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jay and welcome to Simple Church Online. Whether you missed last Sunday, you're checking us out for the first time, or maybe even watching out of state, we're so glad that you're a part of our community. And we're praying today that as you watch, God would use this to bless your life. Enjoy the message. And we're kicking off this new series, Run the Race, and it's a perfect time. If you're new here, maybe if you've even been here for a little while, this series will be so great to tell you what this church is about and what your role at this church is. Because we're not a church where you just come and sit. That's not what church is. Church is community. It's interactive. We're together in life. And so this will give you a really good idea of who we are and what we're about. And maybe you've been here for a little while and you're wondering, like, how do I fit into this? This will be great. And if you've been here for a long time, this is great for you too, as either a refresher or maybe you need to get your butt in gear, and these are the things that you need to be doing. So we're going to look at what are the three things that we kind of want to see for the individual, because as a church, we kind of have a couple of slogans. Can anybody give me kind of our two main slogans that we have as a church? Anybody? Just yell it out. Just Jesus. Okay. Also, they're really big back here on the wall, if you were wondering. So those are kind of our church statements. Like, we want to make it just about Jesus and nothing else. That's what simple church means. It's just about Jesus and nothing else. And then the other kind of slogan is keep it simple. We don't want to, I feel like church can be overdone sometimes. Like, it's just people getting together, doing life together, loving each other, taking care of each other, worshiping God. That's what church is. We're going to keep it simple, studying the Word together, right? That's what we're going to be as a church. But what about you? What is your role here at this church and in your own personal, intimate salvation? Because what church has become is a place that you just come to, and it's about the speaker and the church and all that stuff, when really that's never what it was meant to be about. It's about an intimate, personal relationship between you and God. So what does that look like, and how does that play out here at Simple Church? That's kind of what this series is going to be about. And we kind of feel like one of the hopes and the goals is that we help you run this race called life. The Bible has a lot of reference to running this race. We're in this race of life, and what does that look like? There's a couple of verses that we're going to use. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 says this: "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set out before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith." We run this race that God has set out before us. Now, I will say this. If you're new to the church, you really need to go back and listen to our Galatians series that was right before Christmas and everything hit. It really helps to explain who God is, who Jesus is, what salvation is all about. And so this is going to kind of pick up on to the more personal side of that. Okay, that's great. This kind of cosmos salvation thing and God and all that stuff. How do I make it personal? How do I make it true and real in my own personal life? Because if it doesn't become real in my life, then it's kind of pointless, to be honest with you. There's a whole lot of Christians out there. 82% of America is Christian, right? So, but how does it become real to me and personal to me? That's what we're going to talk about. And 2 Timothy 4:7 says, "I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I have remained faithful." This is Paul talking about the end of his life, that he has accomplished the goal, the race that was set out before him. How can we get to a place in our life where we say, hey, I finished the race. I did well. That's what I want to do with my life. And so we're going to talk about three things that we can do that. Before we do that, I want us to be interactive. I feel like last year we got to a time where we were just kind of dead, and this is, remember, it's about being interactive, not weird. Don't get weird on me. You know, there's a difference. You know what I'm talking about. People always say, are you guys charismatic? I'm like, no, we're not charismatic, but we're excited, right? There's a difference. Big difference, right? So don't get weird on me, but it's okay to be interactive. So we're going to have a choice game. Everybody has to participate. You don't have to do anything weird. I'm going to put up two options. You're either going to raise your hand for option A or option B. Okay, here we go. First one, it's easy, Coke or Pepsi. Option A for Coke, raise your hand. Okay, hands down. Option B for Pepsi. Correct answer, they taste the exact same. Y'all are weird. If you choose one, they're fine. They're the same thing. You need to get on the zero sugar, strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper. I'm putting you on. I'm putting y'all on. I'm telling you right now. That's the jam. All right, number two. Read the book, Raise your hand. Nerds. Okay. Watch the movie, raise your hand. Correct answer. It's never read the book. I'm sorry. Unless it's the Bible. That's okay. Outside of that, the book was better. No, it's not. Movie has stuff, like pictures and stuff. All right, next one. All right. Summertime, wintertime. Raise your hand. A, summertime. Okay, hands down. B, psychos, wintertime. Yeah. Psychos. Something's wrong with you. Move to Alaska then. We're praying for warm weather here. We got to go on a cruise, and it was about... Okay, I was like, what are we doing? What did I say? I'm sorry we went on a cruise. Like, how dare the pastor do something? Get to the next one. So you can think about the next one. But it was like 86 and sunny, and we get back here to this, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. So if you like winter, why? Get a life. All right, next one. Here we go. All right. I know. Okay. This is going to tell a lot. Okay. A for Chick-fil-A. It's on a non-Sunday. Yeah, because you can't. All right. B for Cane's. Sorry, you guys don't get to go to heaven. Chick-fil-A it's God's chicken. I don't know what to tell you. I don't make the rules. I actually prefer Cane's, but I voted Chick-fil-A just to make it into heaven. So that's how that goes. All right, next one. Okay, morning person or night owl? All right, morning person, A, raise your hand. Get up early, maybe get that cup of coffee, get that workout on. All right, B, night owl, raise your hand. Correct answer. Morning people, let me just say this. Nobody cares that you get up early. Nobody wants to hear that you got up at 4 to work out. Jacob Greenfield, I know you're in the back there, but I know you can hear me. You're the ones that are nodding off at like 8:30. Like, you're not cool. Anyway. All right, next one. Okay, now here, we'll take a drink. Randomly generated these pictures, randomly generated. If you've been at our church for any amount of time, you know how I feel. So here's what we're going to do. We're not taking a vote because I will kick you out of the church if you were to vote for them. Take it down. Take it down. Answer's A all day long. B's not even in the conversation. B is not even in the top 5 conversation, but that's a whole other, we can talk later after this. Okay. Thank you. Jeff gets it. All right. So here's the deal. First thing. This is the first thing that we want for you. Choose Jesus. Here's the truth about all those things that we looked at. You have some criteria, right, to decide, I like this one over that one, I choose this one. What I would say for some of you in here today is you've never met Jesus. And I would say you need to find out what's the criteria for Jesus. Why would you choose Jesus? Why would you choose to go to church? Why would you choose this whole thing, this whole life? You've got to figure out why that choice is better than any other choice. And I'll just tell you, yes, I'm a pastor and I'm supposed to preach this, right? But I'm talking from my personal life. There is no greater choice than the choice to follow Jesus. I mean, there's just not. There's so much freedom in it. There's so much forgiveness and release of shame and regret and all these things. Like I can't explain well enough why I would choose Jesus. That's why I want you to kind of go back through Galatians and understand what Jesus did for you and how much he loves you and how free he is. The whole reason that Jesus came was to bring us freedom. And I feel like we live in this world of bondage and chains and just sadness and hatred and all these things that Jesus came to rid us of. But we have to choose Jesus. We have to look at the criteria and say, Jesus is better for me, for my family, for my personal life, for my salvation, for my eternity than anything else out there. I choose a Jesus, right? We have to make that choice. Now, again, in Galatians, it talks about Jesus did all the work that he needed to do. He was the perfect sacrifice. It's a free gift for us. That's who Jesus is. He loved us enough to come and die for us, to raise again, and to be the bridge between us and God. That if we put our life in him, if we choose him, if we trust him, that we're saved and we're forgiven. We have an eternity with God. He did his part. And yes, it is a free gift. The Bible is clear about that. There's nothing that you could do, good or bad enough, for God. Jesus did everything that he needed to do. But I think that a lot of times that becomes head knowledge to us, especially in America, that Jesus did what he needed to do, and I believe that. And then that's kind of the end of it. And then we wonder why life isn't different or why I don't feel something, or we walk away from this faith thing, we walk away from church, we walk away from God. Did we ever make it a true choice in our life? So I want to look at this, and to do that, I want to kick the year off by going to Revelation. Speaking of getting weird, let's talk no, I'm just kidding. Revelation 3. And Jesus says this in verse 20. He says, "Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in, and we'll share a meal together as friends. Those who are victorious will sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat with my Father on his throne." Now, this is a pretty well-known verse in Revelation. Jesus says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." I feel like that's where a lot of people get with faith and with Jesus and with this whole thing. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Jesus is on that other side there. That seems like that could be real. I look at the world. It seems like it was created. I have a brain. I have common sense. I look at things and think, wow, that probably just didn't pop out of thin air. So there's got to be more to this. Also, there's this void in my life where I'm like trying to figure out what the purpose of life is and how this all got here and what happens when I die. And maybe, yeah, there is something more to this. And the God of the Bible seems like that's a pretty good choice. Out of all these different choices out there, the God of the Bible seems like he could be the real one. And man, for Jesus to come do that for me and wipe my slate clean and do everything that he needed to do, and that's a free gift for me, that's fantastic, man. Jesus is awesome. Love that. So yeah, I believe that Jesus is on the other side of the door. But it doesn't say, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock," and everything's cool then. There's an action step that follows that. Go back to Romans 3:20. "Look, I stand at the door and knock. If," which is a conditional term, "if you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in." I have to choose Jesus. Jesus did everything that was needed for salvation. I have to choose that. I don't get to sit by and just say, "Cool, thanks, Jesus. I'm going to live how I want to and then party in heaven later." That's not how it works. Because Jesus is the only one who could fulfill that sacrifice needed, I have to choose him. And what does it mean to choose him? It doesn't mean that I just know about him and I believe in him. It means that I've said the criteria of Jesus is more important than any other thing in this world, and I'm going to orient my life around that choice. That's what we do. When we choose something, we orient our life around that. When I want to work out, I want to get in shape, right? It's the new year. I want to work out. If I choose to do that, I'm going to orient my life around that. I now have to be disciplined that. I now have to get up earlier, go work out after work, or eat better, or whatever the thing is. I can't just say, "Man, I'd love to be in shape." Man, that would be really cool. And I believe, I know the way to do that. I know that there's good things out there that I can do this, this, and this. What good does that do? You can want to be in shape all day long. If you don't get your butt up and go to the gym, you're not going to be in shape. You have to choose that option is better. You have to think, okay, I know that it's better for me to be healthy. It's better for me to lose weight. It's better for me to eat better. It's better for me to do these things. Now I have to choose, and by choosing, I orient my life around that thing that I choose. That's how this works. And what I've seen so much in church and in faith is that we choose Jesus by going to church, by believing that more than something else, by trying to be a good person. But Jesus says, "I stand at the door and knock. Open the door and have a meal with me," which is about intimacy. It's about a connection. It's about a personal relationship. That's the only way this works. The God of the universe wants to have a personal relationship with you. That's what it means to choose Jesus, to orient your life around that. And if you want to see life change, if you want to see truly God be able to work in your life, that's when it happens. When I orient my life around him. Because there's some really interesting stuff that happens here in Revelation. So 20 and 21 is at the end of, so there's 7 letters to these churches. They're really messages to these churches, kind of like, hey, you need to get your stuff in gear. Like, this is important. Pay attention. And this letter is to the church in Laodicea. And this is the message. I want to read it from the very beginning because it's really interesting what's paired with this, because we hear this Revelation 3:20 a lot, but what's paired with it is really important as well. It says in verse 14, write the letter to the angel of the church in Laodicea. This is the message from the one who is the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of God's new creation. This is the message from Jesus. Listen up, church, is what he's saying. I know all the things you do, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other. But since you are like lukewarm water, neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have everything I want, I don't need a thing. And you don't realize that you're wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. So I advise you to buy gold from me, gold that has been purified by fire. Then you will be rich. Also buy white garments from me, so you will not be shamed by your nakedness, and ointment for your eyes, so you will be able to see. This is really important right here. I correct and discipline everyone I love, so be diligent and turn from your indifference. Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in, and we will share a meal together as friends. Those who are victorious will sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat with my Father on his throne. So the caveat is there's an admonishment to this church of like, hey, this was a very successful church. There was a major road that ran through it. It was very successful, prosperous. They had gold. And God says, hey, I think you're getting distracted by it. You think that you're good and everything's great because you're living in luxury. But hey, there's so much more to this relationship that I'm talking about. And he references, you're not hot, you're not cold, you're lukewarm. Now, I've preached this quite a bit, and I think there's some truth to this, that this statement is about God doesn't want you to be lukewarm. He'd rather you be hot or cold, be either way, be all out or be all in, one of the two. And I think that there's some truth to that God doesn't want us just to sit on the sideline, but I think there's a whole lot more that's going on with this. There were aqueducts that ran into Laodicea. Right? There was a hot spring that ran in that they would cool the water and use, and then there was cold springs that ran in. And so what I think that Jesus had in mind here in talking about this is, hey, you're not being useful in the kingdom. You're not choosing to be a part of what's actually going on here. You're playing the part. You're acting like you are. You're going to church, but you've never really fully engaged in a relationship with me. You're so focused on everything else in this world that you're missing out on what's real. Buy gold from me. I've got gold that's purified, that's better than any gold. You could be a billionaire. What does it matter? Let me clothe you. Let me get some ointment for your eyes. Let me be the one that does that for you because I'm the one who brings true life to you. And I think it's so true for how we are nowadays that it's so easy, especially in America, just to fall into that category of check mark Christian, I'm good, when we've never really encountered a true relationship with Jesus. We've never really chosen to open the door. And the way that we do that, the way that we can know if we've done that is, am I orienting my life around that choice? It's really interesting to me that right before Jesus says, I stand at the door and knock, he says, I discipline those I love. We don't think about that. That when we begin to orient our life and God begins to cut things out of us that need to be cut out and push us towards the things that we should be doing, that's how we can know that we chose Jesus. Because God's beginning to work on us and make us into the thing we were always supposed to be. Now again, it's not so that we can do good works and get to him and be good enough for him. That's what Jesus did. It's because when we choose Jesus, he's going to discipline us and love on us and show us the way that we should be. It's just like I said with anything else. If you want to get in shape, you have to be disciplined. You have to choose that these things are better for me than those other things. And when we get in a relationship with God, God says, hey, I know what's best for you. These things in your life are not good for you and your family. Let me help you remove those from your life. And there's a lot of times that God gets the blame and he's mean and all these things. And if we go back to Hebrews, and we'll look at that here in just a second, it talks about him as a father. A good father disciplines their kids. Matter of fact, let's go back to Hebrews. Because, again, in Hebrews 12, we read, what did we read? 1 and 2, where it talks about therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not given your lives in your struggle against sin. So it's interesting the writer of Hebrews sets the stage with this, and this is what we read. We kind of read that chunk. That God is Jesus is the initiator, the perfecter, the champion of our faith, however you want to say it. And think about what he did for you. But then it goes into a really it feels like a weird shift. Look what he says here, continuing in verse 5. And have you forgotten the encouraging words God spoke to you as his children? He said, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you, for the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one of us who he accepts as a child. As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Whoever heard of a child who is never disciplined by its father? I've seen some. It's not good. If God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you are an illegitimate and are not really his children at all. Since we respected our earthly fathers who disciplined us, shouldn't we submit even more to the discipline of the Father of our spirits and live forever? It's really interesting to me that in both places where Jesus makes a statement about choosing him, it's followed up by the discipline of God. Because I think it's really important for us to understand that if we are really truly following Jesus, that we are submitting to God's authority and that there will be discipline in a way that helps us become the person that God wants us to be. If that's not happening, you're not in a relationship with God. And I think that that's really scary for me as a pastor to think that there are people who think that they're saved because they know about Jesus, because they've been to church some, but have never really chosen Jesus. They've never really opened the door to him. And I do think that's where Matthew 7 comes in, and he says, everyone who even called on my name is not going to be saved. Like, there's so much more to this. But it's only when I choose Jesus and orient my life around Jesus that salvation comes. For some of you here today, if you were just being honest with yourself, you've probably never done that. Maybe you've been coming to church for a really long time, but it's always been about this kind of distant, arm's length God who you're afraid of, so I come to church because I don't want to go to hell or something like that. The invitation that Jesus has is, come to me in a personal relationship. Choose me, and let me show you the best way to live this life. We live in a broken world. This past week, we were mostly disconnected from the news and stuff, but you catch up and you see all these things, and it just saddens you. We live in this broken, messed up world, and what God wants to do is come along beside us in this world through the Holy Spirit and help us walk through this and create a path for us and help us navigate how do we live this life successfully. God is not just about this distant heaven that's later when I die. He's about right now a personal relationship, walking side by side with you, helping you through the struggles that are going to come along in this life, and there's going to be a lot of them. But it's only found in a relationship where I've chosen Jesus, and I've now oriented my life around that. And I think that's the first and most important thing. As we talk about these next couple of things over the next couple of weeks, unless we get this right, we're going to miss out on all the good stuff that God has for us. We're going to miss out on the way that we could partner with God and impact this world and all the things that he can do through us. And you're going to miss out on the blessings from this life. I feel like, again, we talked about this a little bit in the last series, but I feel like there's so many people who think that Christianity is boring or useless or has no point anymore. And I really think that they have missed out on what it's really about. And it's hard to describe what it's like to be in a personal relationship with Jesus. Like, that's really difficult. But I've got the chance to be in ministry, and even for the first 10 years of that ministry, to kind of be at a distant relationship with God, if you will. And then for these last about 15 years of my life, to be able to be in an intimate relationship with God. It's hard to describe how that's different other than to say it's a billion times better. Like, I don't have the right words for it. It's just until you really experience choosing Jesus, opening that door, sitting down at the table with him, being intimate, having that true one-on-one relationship. I can't describe what that's like until you experience it. The beautiful thing about God is he wants that for every single one of us. Every single one of us. Here's what we have to understand, and why I think that when you start looking at the criteria of what do I want to choose for this life, I think put number one at the top of the list of why to choose Jesus is that he already chose you. Think about this. The Bible tells us while we're still sinners, while we were still enemies of God, Christ died for us. It's incredible. God has already chosen us, oriented himself around us, and disciplined himself for us. God is perfect in justice and wrath, and if he wanted to, he could wipe out the world, and he would be right in doing it. But he has held back his wrath and instead sent Jesus to be our mercy and our grace and our peace and to die in our place. The God of everything has disciplined himself for us to show us that he loves us. It's incredible. This is good news. This is the most freeing news in the world, and that's why I want you to choose that and not just be an option that's left behind the door. It's like the old Let's Make a Deal. How many people remember Let's Make a Deal, like the old one, not the Wayne Brady version? So I've heard, I walked around the cruise ship all the time, and if I didn't like something, I do that because I think it's funny. But then Evan was telling me that's like a gang sign or something. So then I kept doing it more because I thought it was cool. But anyway, I don't know. It's like in life, we have these three doors, and we have a choice to make. And I feel like a lot of times, option, let's say Jesus is option 2, he's the best option, and we know he's behind there, but we want to try out these other doors first and just make sure we're not missing out or anything like that. And I feel like so many people leave him behind that door and miss out on what true life is really all about. In Jesus is where you find everything you're looking for in this life, I promise you. There's nothing else out there that will bring that joy or happiness. There's not a single thing that you can be a multi-billionaire. Now, I'd like to try both. I'm not against it. Maybe one of these days I'll buy a lottery ticket, but there's nothing like the feeling you have when you are secure in Jesus. And when you know that the Holy Spirit has your back, that is walking with you, and that ultimately, even if I die, I pass from this world into perfection, man. And that really releases a lot of tension, a lot of the need to make the world right and speak out against these people that I don't agree with and that, blah, blah, blah. It's so freeing. And one of our goals here at Simple Church is to free people, to see them free, to live in that freedom, to be joyful people. We don't want Christians walking around like, I want to slap Christians like that. Yeah, life is hard. Yes, it is. You're going to go through some tough stuff. That's why, one, it's great to have a church that can walk through that with you, but it's also great to know that this is temporary, and there's something greater than this, and that you've been forgiven, and that you don't have to live in shame and regret and all those things. You don't have to walk around like a sourpuss because things are going to be better, and it's already better because the Holy Spirit's with you. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead lives inside of you. How about that's better? And I'm going to walk around joyful, and I'm going to love people. We're going to preach today. I didn't know that. I was feeling pretty tired today, but not anymore. It's only 10:50. I baked some time from a couple weeks ago. Remember that? Y'all thought I forgot. No, we were down to like 10:55. No. I just, one of the things that God has given me is I want Christians to be fun. I want Christians to be fun. Why would it not be? We have the greatest news in the world. It should be the most freeing thing. We should be so much fun. We should be loving people well. We suck at it. I don't know if I can say that in the big 2-6, but I did. I want so much more. And Jesus deserves so much more from us for what he did for us. But until we choose Jesus and we're freed from all of our stuff, we're never going to live it out right. And these next 2 weeks we're going to talk about we're never going to achieve those things if we don't get this one right. And so for some of you here today, you've never really had a relationship with Jesus, and that's okay. Listen, I'm not here to like dog you because of that. I'm just saying you're missing out. And maybe the first step for you is just to start looking at the criteria. What is out there? You know, if maybe you're even an atheist, that's great, but have some real conversations. Do you really believe that this world just happened by chance? Really? Does common sense tell you that? Like, the fact that you're even able to have a logical conversation about that disproves atheism. But that's a whole other conversation. But I'm just, start looking at the criteria and really making personal choices. Don't let the world tell you what to believe. What do you believe, and why do you believe it? For some of you, you've been in this Christian thing, and it's just been this thing that you do. 1, because you either grew up with it. 2, because you're afraid of hell. 3, because it's just something you're supposed to do. But it's never really been a personal thing to you. You've never really got to experience Jesus the way you're supposed to. And for you, you need to figure out, how do I choose Jesus? How do I open that door? I know he's behind there. I know he wants to come in. How do I open that door? For some of you, this just needs to be a reminder. Like, don't forget who you are. That you either need to be hot or cold, which means you need to be useful. You need to be doing something in the kingdom. You need to be working for God. You need to be showing other people his love. You need to be the one. That's a couple series away, but that may be for you. Hey, like, this is a rekindling moment. Like, I need to be on fire again. I've kind of lost that fire. I've kind of let what Jesus has done for me, settle a little bit. No, it needs to be the most important thing in my life. I need to be telling everybody about it. And for some of you, this is just a moment to celebrate. Some of you have been on this race for a while. And it's time to say, thank you, God, for who you are. Thank you for this race that I'm running. Help me to finish well. Help me to mentor other people. Help me to show them who Jesus is. Help me to be useful in your kingdom until the day that I die, whatever that looks like. Whatever level you're on there, that's fine. But don't stay there. Don't stay there. Make a choice and go after it. Begin to orient your life around that. If you're going to choose Jesus, choose Jesus. Open that door and orient your life around that. Make it all about him. And see if it's worth it. And I can tell you right now, it is. It will be. There's no doubt in my mind. There's nothing better than Jesus. You've got to choose that for yourself. It's got to become real for you. It can't be your parents' faith. It can't be the church's faith. It can't be your grandparents' faith. It has to be you and Jesus only. If you've never experienced that, my prayer is that this year you'll go on that journey. And we'd love to have you go on that with us. There's a lot of great churches out there. We'd love for you to partner with us and be a part of us, but I want you to be a part of us if you're here. Be a part of this community. Be engaged. Don't just sit and then leave. Get to know the community here. That's what we want for you. God is doing a lot of great things here, and I think we're going to have to go to 2 services soon because you keep showing up. My prayers do not work, man. No, we're going to keep packing this place out for as long as we can, adding in some chairs, doing what we can do. But we want you to be involved in the life of this church. We've got some things coming up, small group stuff, some of the stuff we're going to start talking about there. We want you to be involved in that. And so you're here at a good time as we begin to continue to figure out how do we do church. And we want to do it the biblical way. We want to do it as a family and as a community. And we want you to be engaged in that. So a lot of things that are coming up. But I would just say the first thing for you personally is choose Jesus. And maybe this is the mantra just for this whole year. Maybe it's every single day, wake up, I'm choosing Jesus today. Maybe you read that thing on Facebook, I'm choosing Jesus right now. Maybe that person who hurt you does something that you don't like, I'm choosing Jesus today. Maybe there's a schedule thing coming up between God and sports, and you say, I'm choosing Jesus today. Not that happens, but let's not be a church and a people that just give lip service to God. Let's not just choose Jesus by showing up to church on Sunday. Let's really do that. Let's get in his word. Let's read every day. Let's discover who he is and how that impacts our life and how we can live better. That's what he has for us, but we have to choose it. He's done his part, I promise you. And he will always continue to do his part. God is faithful today, tomorrow, every single day. And he will never stop being faithful. Now, it doesn't always play out the way that we want it to, but he will be faithful in his way every single day. We have to choose that. He's at the door. He's knocking. It's our job to open up and say, Jesus, I choose you. That's what I want for you because I know that's the best life possible. If again, I'd love for you to be a part of this church here and discover how to do that here. If you want a church that preaches the Bible, that's what we're about, that we're going to laugh together and we're going to learn together, this is the place for you. A place to be a community, a place to find people to love you and care for you. Love for you to be part of that. Go on that journey here. Ask questions. Listen, there's no dumb questions out there about faith, about God, any of those things. As a matter of fact, and I'll end with this, we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks, but we'll have our starting line class, which tells you all about the church, our journey, answers any questions you might have about the church, a 2-week class that we do that, and then we have a 2-week class called First Steps that answer some of the basic faith questions, and those are great places to start. So if you've never been connected, never got plugged in, coming up in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be some great ways to do that, and so I want you to get plugged in, be a part of that, and go on this journey and see what God has for you. He has something amazing for you. Be encouraged that in the craziness of this world and life, that God has a plan for you. And that Jesus died for you, and he chose you while we were still a sinner. He's still, let that be the basis of your joy and happiness, and then let it build from there. And this year, choose Jesus and figure out what this means to you personally. And if we can help you in any way, that's what we're here for as a church. We'd love to go on that journey. Once again, thank you for stopping by today. We'd love for you to be a part of our family at one of our services. You can find out all of our information at simplechurchtulsa.com, and we'd love to pray for you any way we can. So please message us, and we hope you have a great week.